Okay. So, um, I know we missed last week, but 2 weeks before that, we kind of set a stage for the entry of the great Adi Shankaracharya. The way we discussed the situation back then, we looked at how there were different groups within the uh, Vedic understanding of Hinduism, and then you had also the non-Vedic or the Nastikas who did not believe in the Vedas or God, or they were atheists, and other religious groups that had their own version of not following Vedas. They had their own philosophies. So, principal among them was Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka, and so on.
Hello. Hello. I can't see.
Can you see now? Yep. Okay. So, like I said, we kind of set the stage for the birth of Adi Shankaracharya. Buddhism at the time was at its peak. Now, just to give you an idea, back of when Adi Shankaracharya was born, when Buddha was born, there's a gentleman by the name, or there was a gentleman by the name Kota Venkatachalam. He's a historian. Now, with the British invasion, the Western influence, the Christians believed that the universe was formed about 6,000 years ago. And there's a man by the name Max Muller who translated a lot of the Indian texts. And he used the Christian dates as a benchmark and dated our history. To counter that, we have our own historians who have done it, one of them being Kota Venkatachalam. So this man is from Andhra, and he dated Buddha as 1887. He was born in 1887 as opposed to 300 something by Max Muller. Max Muller also said that Shankaracharya was born in around 788 AD, whereas Kota Venkatachalam has stated that it's around 509 BC or BCE. So there's a lot of discrepancy there. You look at Buddha, he's nearly 4,000 years old. Shankaracharya is nearly 2,500 years or a little more. So these are giving you the dates of when they were born. So Buddhism had a lot of time to expound their philosophy and influence a lot of people. And where by the time Shankaracharya is there, it is quite prominent in India. Ashoka has taken it to the rest of the Asian countries, like he's taken it to Afghanistan, he's taken it to Tibet, China, Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka. So it's become very popular. The Vedic way of life was kind of in danger. And this is where the birth of Adi Shankaracharya becomes very prominent. The story of Shankaracharya is written by different people. We will take the version narrated by Swami Vidyaranya. Now, this Swami, he is a part of the lineage of the Shankaracharya's teachings. So the lineage is like this: you have a guru, you have a disciple, and then that disciple takes on the responsibilities of the ashrama, they become the guru, and then they have students and so on. So one of the disciples down the line, a few generations later, he's Vidyaranya, and he's from a mata uh, or an institute that was set up by Adi Shankaracharya at Sringeri Mata, Sringeri. So that institute is called Sringeri Mata. So that's where he was a guru of. And he's um, thought to be an incarnation of Adi Shankaracharya himself because he is written a number of commentaries and a number of shlokas, etc., on in his own right. So he's also a great saint. Now, this man, he is credited with encouraging two brothers by the name Harihara Raya and Bukka Raya of the Kakatiya dynasty to withstand the invasions of the Islamists. So he, while he encouraged them, while he helped them, and while he ensured that the Vedic system stayed alive during the Islamic invasions, he himself did not take any post in the uh, Kakatiya dynasty's Vijayanagara Empire. But he was a great saint. He lived for 126 years, and he's written the story for Adi Shankaracharya, which is uh, Shankara Vijayam. And I'm going to tell you the story based on that. Okay. It's, I don't know where I left off last class, but there's a time when the gods feel they are not, there's a loss of the Vedic ways. Because of it, there are not many rituals, and the rituals are the food for the gods, and they are becoming weak because there's not many rituals. They go to Brahma. Brahma takes them to Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva says, "Okay, I'll help you." And then there are other gods who come and want to be a part of the event of uh, Lord Shiva's kind of incarnation. So it's his energy that uh, Shankaracharya is kind of part of Lord Shiva's energy. There's just like in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, Lord Shiva goes in to help Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva wants to be a part of Lord Vishnu's uh, life on earth. The same way, Lord Vishnu also wants to be a part. So he comes down as a disciple of Shankaracharya called Padmapada Acharya. Lord Brahma comes in as Sureshwaracharya. He is also a disciple. Vayu God comes in as Hastamatak Laka Charya. Then Agni comes as Totakacharya. So these are some of them. And then there's Kumar Swami, who's Lord Shiva's son himself, Kartikeya. He comes as Kumarila Bhattu. Indra comes in as Sudhanvu. Uh, Goddess Saraswati comes in as Ubhaya Bharati. I'm not going to uh, explain too much more, but you get the idea that gods also come down. And this is the story as per Swami Vidyaranya's narration. Okay. It starts off with a couple by the name Shivaguru and Aryamba. Shivaguru is the husband, Aryamba is obviously the wife. They're married, but they don't have a child for a very, very long time. Okay. One day, Aryamba says, "Look, we need to do something about this. Can we approach some saints? Can we do something?" Shiva Guru says, "Look, let's go and pray to Lord Shiva. Let's follow certain austerities, certain rituals, and let's try and please Lord Shiva." So they do it religiously. And after a number of days, Shiva Guru, he has a dream. Lord Shiva comes in his dream and says, okay, I'm pleased with what you're doing, what you and Aryamba are doing. Now, this is what I'm offering you. You have the option of either having a great saint born, but he will have a very short life. Okay? Or on the flip side, you will have someone who will live a very long time, but he will be a complete idiot. Okay? And somebody who will be a rascal kind of person. You choose what you want. So immediately in that dream, Shiva Guru says, I would prefer a knowledgeable saint than uh, a young, small, a knowledgeable saint who lives for a short while rather than an idiot who is going to be living for a very long time. And the next morning, he tells his wife what happened. A few weeks later, Aryamba really falls pregnant, and they're all very happy now. In due course, Shankaracharya is born, and the environment is where he is, where Shivaguru and Aryamba are. There's joint families. This is the olden times where there's joint families. You have not just joint families, but a few other people. So it's a small community-like environment. Everyone's very pleased with the birth of the child, and not long after the birth, there is a naming ceremony. And based on the rituals, they name him Shankara. This child is a kind of a child prodigy. By the time he's 1, he's able to speak fluently all the languages that are spoken in that region. And that region is Kaladi. Kaladi is Kerala. Just an interesting fact. Kerala, it's believed that never existed before Parashurama asked for it from the sea, from the ocean. What happens is Parashurama kills a lot of the Kshatriyas, and then he has to uh, give away all the land to Kashyap, because he has to become a Brahmana. He's a Brahmana, he can't rule the kingdoms. So he gives up all the land back to the people, and he has to leave land, but he doesn't have any land. So he asks the ocean for land, and the ocean says, I don't know how much land you want. How about you decide how much you want, and you take that. So what Parashurama does is he takes his axe and he hurls it towards the ocean, and it uh, covers the length of that southern part of India, and that land rises. That part becomes Kerala. So that's just giving you some additional information. Anyway, so Kaladi is in that southern part of India, which is called Kerala. And this is where Adi Shankaracharya is born. Even today, Kaladi exists. Where he's born, that place still exists. I believe visitors are allowed, etc. Now, coming back to Adi Shankaracharya, by the time he was 1, he was able to fluently speak all the languages. By the time he was 3, because of the community that he lived in, he was able to pronounce and repeat all the mantras that he had listened just once. So he'd become that prominent by the age of 3. He was even able to understand a lot of those things. So his father decides he's going to get him do the thread ceremonies for him. So the ritual has to take place, but his father falls sick and he passes away. Okay, the thread ceremony is called Upnayana in South India. Anyway, so his father passes away, and they have to wait for a year before they can do anything. Mother Aryamba is very sad that her husband passed away, but they wait for a year finally, and with the help of the relatives, they do his Upnayana. Now, as a part of the Upnayana, he has to leave home and go and live in a residential school. So the schooling system, I'll explain to you a little bit about how it was back in those days. it is a residential school. You have to go and live with the guru or the teachers over there. They have their own little hostel kind of place, and the education institute is a little bit outdoors, a little bit indoors. They have to, the kids have to help out, clean up the place, and they have to study. The older kids usually go out and they ask for bhiksha. Bhiksha is not begging, but it's kind of going and telling the community that they are Brahmins, they are the knowledge bearers, and they need to sustain. So whatever you can help, please help. So they would go to any house that they believed would give them, the householders of which would give them some food or grains or any fruits or veggies or whatever that was. So that was the system back then. They would bring all of that back, and then somebody in the ashram or in the school would cook it for them. So that's how they used to live their life. Now it so happens that uh, Shankaracharya, he it takes about probably 10, 12, 14 years for the kids to usually learn the Vedas. Shankaracharya, he learns that within a couple of years. He's so brilliant. He's learned and he's helping out other kids. He's that brilliant at such a young age. Okay. And now that he's even helping out other kids, he decides to go asking for bhiksha with the other older kids. One place they come across is a hut or a very small house where the lady of the house and the brahmanas, okay, the male is out engaged in some services to bring in some food for the house, and it's only the lady who's in that house. So when Shankaracharya goes there with the other disciples and he asks for bhiksha, so they say bhiksham dehi. The lady comes out and she sees this beautiful young kid, okay, radiant looking young kid, and she wants to give him some food, but she knows there's no food in the house. She's that poor, there's no food at all, she knows that. And then she has tears in her eyes and she wants to do something for that little boy. She runs and she looks everywhere and she finally finds a small berry, just a small berry. And she comes out and with tears in her eyes, she drops that berry in Adi Shankaracharya's bag, and she's very sad that she can't do more for him. Adi Shankaracharya realizes this. Okay. And what he does is he immediately starts singing out a shloka. Then and there he creates a shloka. This shloka is called Kanakadhara shloka. Kanaka is gold. So it is in praise of goddess Lakshmi. He sings it so nicely that goddess Lakshmi, wherever she is, she leaves everything she's doing, she comes and appears in front of him immediately then and there. She's so pleased to see Shankaracharya, the little boy who's composed such a beautiful shloka. She asks him, what would you like? Ask for anything. Then Shankaracharya says, oh, look, I would like this lady not to be in poverty anymore. Can you help her? So then Goddess Lakshmi says, this lady, because of her past karma, she's poor now. And that is her karma. That is how she is meant to be. To which Adi Shankaracharya says, I understand that, but she's done something really great right now. All right. Then Goddess Lakshmi asks, what did she do? And he says, oh, she gave me this berry. She doesn't have anything in the house, but with her whole heart, she gave me this little berry. With a lot of devotion, she gave me this berry, and I would like to repay her in some way. Immediately, Goddess Lakshmi, she feels she's very pleased with Adi Shankaracharya, and fills the poor lady's house with golden berries. That event becomes very popular. All the other friends, students, they take that knowledge and tell everyone else, and he's become very popular. And he's only 6 years old back at that time, 6 to 7. So he's become very popular, and he he completes his studies and he comes back home very early. Now, when he comes home, everybody's heard about this incident, and he continues his studies further. He's uh, starting to have discussions with some of the others, learned people in the community about the Vedas, and they are all amused by his knowledge. They are actually uh, thrilled to have such a young kid, such a brilliant kid amongst them, who's able to recite the verses and explain them with so much clarity. Soon this word, soon this becomes very popular. This little kid becomes very popular, and people from neighboring villages also come to start coming and having discussions with him about Vedas and all. It doesn't end there. There is the local king. He sends one of his ministers, and he says, take whatever you want, gold, take elephants, take horses, take anything you want, go and bring this young kid. I'd like him to be a part of my kingdom's ministers and advisors. Accordingly, that minister goes and he starts conversing with uh, Shankaracharya, and he says, we've got all this for you, the elephants, chariots, horses. Our king would really love to have you in his court. He's a very generous king, and he would love to have someone as knowledgeable as you in his court. Then Shankaracharya says, I am a student. I'm not allowed to have any of these, um, how do you say, luxuries in life. All right. It will distract me from my purpose of gaining knowledge. So he very politely puts that. So I appreciate if you take all of that back. So then the minister says, okay, I'll take it back. Can you tell me what I have to go and tell the king? So then Shankaracharya says, look, from what you say, the king is a really generous person. He's a very kind hearted person. I would like him to continue doing what he's doing by helping all the different uh, people in his country who are in different professions. He should make sure everyone is employed. He should be giving out alms to all the brahmanas who are uh, the knowledge uh, bank of the country. So please make sure he continues his good work. Takes that information and goes back. The king is not happy. He himself comes over, and then he wants to meet this young child. So he comes and he tells Shankaracharya, I know no matter what you won't come. That is why I've come now to see you. They have a conversation. Shankaracharya is very pleased with him. He's a little kid. Imagine this 7-year-old kid who's pleased with the king. The king is actually bowing down to him and having a conversation with him. And then he says, look, I want one boon from you. He says, what? Shankaracharya says, what? And he says, well, I've written these 3 stories. I would really like to narrate these stories and I want your opinion on it. So accordingly, Shankaracharya listens to the stories and he says, these are really good. Please publish them. Please make sure they are enacted. Please tell all the, uh, give this, give these stories some exposure. Make sure you do that. And they part their ways. So that's giving you a little bit of background about how his next few months and years go by. One day, what happens is his mother is a little old, right? I did say that for a number of years they did not have kids, so she's uh, a little slightly elderly lady, and she's been fasting. She has the rituals that she does, and she goes to the river, close by river. The river is called Purna. Purna River. She goes to take a bath, but because of the heat that day, and because of her fasting, because of her rituals, she falls down, faints and falls down, and she's old. And somebody tells Shankaracharya that your mother's at the banks and she's not able to come home. So immediately Shankaracharya goes with his relatives, makes sure she's all right, gives her water, uh, wakes her up, and he, with the help of his relatives, he brings her home. Okay, then he goes back to the river and he comes up with another shloka for that river. He starts praising the river and he says, "Oh river, my mother is really old and she has to follow these rituals. She wants to follow these rituals, which will make her weak further. So can I request you to change your path and come closer to my home, so my mother can follow her rituals every day." The next morning, when everyone wakes up, the river has changed course and is very close to their house. Just imagine, the young kid's popularity is now just doubled overnight. Everyone is very popular. He's so popular, everyone in the surrounding villages actually wants to come and listen to him just speak. He's that popular now. It comes to a stage where he's nearly 8 years old, and a number of great saints, starting with Agastya Maharishi, come and visit him. Shankaracharya, he knows who they are. His mother doesn't. And they start having a conversation with him about his knowledge, about various things. And he's also having a conversation with him. And the mom is mesmerized. She's thinking, oh God, what's happening here? My son's having a conversation with some of these great saints and I don't know who they are. Then Adi Shankaracharya when he on a break, he comes and explains who they are. And she's overwhelmed. She can't believe that these great saints are actually there, starting with Agastya Muni. Immediately she goes there, she bows down to them, she tries to make sure they're comfortable. She does everything in her power because she feels blessed. It's like as if gods have come into her house. That's how she feels. Okay. And in that conversation, she says, my husband told me that my son will not live long. Can you please tell me how how old, how long will he be alive for? So immediately the rishis say 8, 8, and 16. This doesn't make sense to her. She says she's thinking to herself, you can just say 32. Why are you saying 8, 8, and 16? Okay. Now they have their conversation with Shankaracharya and they take leave. Shankaracharya continues with his daily rituals. He gets up in the morning, he does his rituals, he has his discussions with people, and then one afternoon he talks to his mother. He says, look, mom, I need to become a sannyasi. If you remember from the past, I explained the 4 varnas. Varnas means you're a child, you grow up, you have your education. This is the brahmachari stage. Then it's a grahastha stage where you get married, you have kids, you educate them, and live your material life. The next part is you start moving away from this. You have kids who are old enough who can look after themselves. So now it's your turn to start reflecting on what you want to do. This is called the varnashram stage. The last stage is where you have given up all the material life, all your worldly life, and you're going in search of God. This is sannyasa stage. Shankaracharya at that age, he wants to take the last stage immediately. He wants to skip all the other stages because he has no interest in material life. His mother does not let him. She says, I cannot allow that. I lost my husband and I can't lose you to sannyasa. Okay. You're the only one I have, and you're going to be with me. Adi Shankaracharya does not challenge this, and he, oops, 7:35. We're almost out of time. Adi Shankaracharya does not challenge it, and he continues with his daily work. I'll leave it here because it's already 7:35. We'll stop this and we'll pick this lesson up next week. Any questions?